Okay, I'd like to share with you some keyboard shortcuts. There's many shortcuts out there. A lot of them you can find out what they are by just paying attention to the menu. If there's something that you're returning to a lot, then, as a habit for myself, I will start studying the keyboard shortcuts and get them memorized. So, but there's one in particular that comes in handy so often. Let's say I'll just have this document open as an arbitrary example. Let's say you're typing or something, and this is something that happens a lot. Import camera roll to computer, and then all of a sudden, let's say, what if I misspelled something and I realize, well, let's say Google doesn't fix it for me. So some people will hit backspace a bunch of times, but then they have to retype all those letters. So it's smarter to hit arrow and then use the arrow key. But so that's good. Arrow key's better than backspace because then you have to retype. But if you hold control when you hit arrow key, notice it jumps a word at a time. That can be used because what if you type way out here, you're on the word computer, and then suddenly you realize that your mistake is way back here. I find it way more time consuming to let go of the keyboard and grab the mouse and then reposition it like that. That takes longer than if you just keep your hands on the keyboard, use the control arrow key to jump back, and then just, let go of the control button so you can jump around like that. So there's tip number 2. I guess. What was tip number 1? Tip number 1 was just to use keyboard shortcuts. Tip number 2 is to use the arrow key. So I guess this could be called tip number 3, control arrow key. Jump, jump, jump. It's much faster than sitting there doing one letter at a time. Well, here's another great one. In fact, I'm going to use it right now. If you hold shift and then arrow key, look at what happens. It selects one letter at a time. Some of you don't know how to select stuff without the mouse. Well, there's how you can do it. I mean, there's always Control A that selects everything. I'm going to hit escape. Thought escape would get me out of there, but okay, so now it didn't get me out of there. But anyways, now I'm going to reposition. Let's say I want to get rid of the word handmade. If I hit shift and then arrow key over, I can do that. But it's also a combination of the two tricks. Control arrow key jumps one word at a time. Shift control will select a whole word at a time, and I can just hit backspace. Okay, that's pretty handy. Yeah, and here's another one. If I put the cursor right here, and if I hold shift and then click over here, it's going to grab everything from that point to that point. And it works even vertically. If I click here and then I hold shift, it'll grab everything from there to there. That's good to know. The same thing works with files. Let's go over here to some files I have in my drive. If I click here and then click there, but hold shift, it grabs everything in between there and there. So in other words, if I click off, if I hold Photoshop, or I click Photoshop and then I hold shift when I hit Audition, it's going to grab those. I can also pick and choose. Like, let's say I click Premiere and then I hold Control. I can click so that I can grab just, a la carte, like pick and choose. Another way to do it, of course, everybody's pretty familiar with the mouse. But let's say you wanted, you didn't want to use the mouse. You could go Shift. Actually, I am using the mouse, aren't I? But if you wanted to use these keyboard shortcuts that I'm talking about, because sometimes you got like a whole sea of files. Let's say you have a whole bunch of them. You can select a range like I just did from Premiere to Audition, hold Shift, and then if I didn't want to get rid of that, I could, or if I didn't want to select that, I could hold Control to deselect it. If I hold Control and do it again, it'll just keep toggling. Okay, and then I could delete or whatever I'm trying to do. So those are very valuable tricks. Let's see if I can do. Oh, that's another one that I love is instead of giving yourself carpal tunnel by selecting the word, it's so much easier just to double click. It'll grab the entire word. So use that, double click instead of, especially if you're using a Chromebook and they give you just a little trackpad instead of a mouse, it can be very tedious to select from there to there. You know, swiping with the little trackpad is much harder than with a mouse. So I suggest you just put the cursor there and then hold down Shift, and there you go. One more thing, if you close a tab, this happens a lot to people. You close a tab and then all of a sudden you realize, oh no, I shouldn't have closed that. Control Shift T will open whatever tab you had open. And you can do it multiple times. Like if I closed 5 tabs and I wanted to open them all back up, just keep hitting Control Shift T until they come back. All right, I'm going to stop there. Some good keyboard shortcuts and tips for you.